Take a look at what happened.
One of the defining characteristics of fascism is victimization. Fascists always claim they and their followers are victims, and they actually believe it. This constant sense of victimhood justifies their ceaseless desire for control to impose police states, the seizure of the democratic process, and the domination of others. And all this is done to hide their own sense of powerlessness. The Nazis, under the leadership of Hitler, used false claims of victimization to justify their aggressive actions, invasions, and war crimes during World War II. They used a narrative of internal enemies like Jews and communists to rally support for their extreme nationalistic and militaristic agenda. Fascism is a systemic expression of a failing capitalist system and a systematic projection of narcissism on a personal level. And Trump, being the prototypical narcissist, well, he's a prototypical fascist. Narcissists don't feel confident and secure with themselves. They feel weak, and like toddlers, they constantly need validation to feel safe and important. They need praise and worship, to be told how great and smart they are. They project this presence of a strong man all the time, and they keep the discussion often about other people's problems or other groups, rather than their own severe character flaws and shortcomings. This is so typical with Trump, who blames the so-called radical left, immigrants, and Muslims on the economic woes of America instead of the ruling class to which he belongs. A ruling class that has systematically gutted and robbed the poor and working class over centuries. And this is all a tactic to influence misinformed people, to give up all their critical faculties and power to their political demigod. And no matter how much power and control they have, no matter how much advantage they have, for people like Trump, it's never enough. It's a never-ending power vacuum. And this hunger for more power and control is what ultimately creates the feedback loop of the opposition to them, which eventually leads to their own undoing. Trump, like many men in our patriarchal society, was never allowed as a child to fully express himself and punished for showing any vulnerability, which forced him to create this artificial layer, this shield to protect himself from allowing anyone to see him for what he truly is. Since he was stuck in a stage of arrested development from childhood, he never understood what accountability meant. It means you try to have a sense of responsibility for the things you do. And this situation with the shooting perfectly represents the identity of Trump. Someone of tremendous privilege, wealth, and power who just happens to be a lifelong victim, using his victimhood as a justification to crush and dominate others for nothing other than to fulfill his sick and perverted ambitions to be a winner. So you know what? Let's forget about all the crimes, deceit, and con artistry that this guy has engaged in for his entire adult life. Just take his word for it. He's the best at everything, and he's the ultimate underdog story, the perfect example of how to win in a capitalist system. You know, this has really made me think. Trump is just like Israel. Trump is just like Israel. If you repeat a lie long enough, well, eventually everyone's gonna believe it. Israel's not the aggressor. Oh, they're the victims. They want peace, etc., blah, blah. If you repeat a lie a million times, then the truth really does not matter. Trump is now a martyr for his followers, a make-believe hero who is here to be our dysfunctional, adopted father figure. And I cannot be the only one who sees right through his let me get my shoes bullshit act. At that moment after the shooting, he thought to himself, awesome, the shooter missed. Here is my chance for the perfect photo op. Fist in the air, narcissism in full stroke, he projects this aura of strength, of dominance. Oh, what a hero. What a tough guy. In regards to the shooter, Matthew Crooks was someone who was ruthlessly bullied in school. And from my understanding, perhaps he wanted to end the archetype of all bullies, Donald Trump. The fascist is the popular bully in the classroom, and instead of being held accountable, he plays the crowd and is instead rewarded for his antisocial behavior. Now, there are a lot of conspiracies regarding this shooting, and I'm not going to say anything until there's more definitive information about what happened. But when it comes to violence as well as fascism, if we truly want to put an end to violence and these horrific mass shootings and to understand what causes totalitarianism, we have to study the systemic causes of these behaviors. The best way to reduce and eliminate violence of all kinds, be it political, serial killers, rapists, or wars, is by reducing the income gap between the rich and the poor. And I've said this numerous times on my channel. Socioeconomic inequality is the most dangerous trend that capitalism perpetuates. This is why among developed nations, those with higher inequality have more social problems, with the most obvious one being violence. Now, back to Trump. He represents the worst aspects of our failed capitalist society, and he is the epitome of the results of a system driven by exploitation and inequality. He is the poster child. Now, before I continue, I want to make one thing very clear. I do not support the Democrats either. I don't support Democrats or Republican. They're both counter-revolutionary parties. And I especially do not support this piece of human garbage, because it was him and his constituents that gave way to the rise of Trump. It was the policies of Bill Clinton's NAFTA and Obama's bailing out of Wall Street that made the situation in America so desperate that people were willing to vote for anybody who they thought was outside the establishment. I mean, even though Trump literally is the establishment, people were willing to do anything than to vote conventional Democrat or Republican. And I will never have any sympathy or respect for people like Joe Biden, Slick Willie, Bill Clinton, or Obama. This neo-fascist is someone who needs to be studied in a mental institution. He does not belong anywhere near a leadership position. Only insecure people need to be told how great they are. Only insecure people need to bully others to draw attention away from them. And when you extrapolate this to the larger system of play, such as capitalism, as a fundamentally insecure system, an unstable economic model which is about economic booms and collapses, which causes the destruction of our ecosystems, resource scarcity, inequality, corruption, and class war, this system needs fascism every once in a while when it loses control of the working classes and of the social narrative. As I always say, all declining roads lead to fascism. And socioeconomic inequality leads to conditions that are so bad, which become the breeding ground for authoritarians who promise a better future for their loyal subjects. And as Trump now thrives in the emotionally stunted minds of the masses with this man-child tantrum of yelling "fight" to his brainwashed followers, he in essence is forcing people to completely ignore his true character and actions, which sets the stage for the ultimate curtain call on the American experiment. When we look at the Republican Party as it stands today, we are looking at the most dangerous cult on planet Earth, given the fragile nature of where the world currently stands. This is a group that is brought together by shared beliefs revolving around xenophobia, white supremacy, zero regard for the environment, against women's rights, in favor of social Darwinism, imperialism, Christian nationalism, and the only freedom that is permissible, that of free markets and that of an indifferent ruling class to exploit their way through life. And the average MAGA supporter has absolutely no interest in facts if those facts contradict what their group identity has embraced. And this is all thanks to the person who popularized the word fake news, their cult leader. And whether you claim it to be fake news or not, I really don't care. We are headed towards the complete demise of American society. It's all downhill from here. This is how fragile and unstable things have become. All it has taken is a few bullets from one person to set us on a much, much darker path than what we have already witnessed. Free market capitalism is a system that creates conflicts due to its inherent nature, and it uses those conflicts to tighten up measures of control and domination on its population. What caused things to be this way in America? What is the root of the problem? And what are some steps we can take to prevent this madness? Stay tuned for part 2 of this video, where I will break this down and much, much more. And as always, our problems are systemic, and we need a new economic model if we are to have any chance of not only surviving, but thriving collectively as one species on this planet. See you all next time. Peace.